No matter what holiday you celebrate this winter, I've got some fragrance recommendations for you. Hopefully, several of them at least will be things that weren't on your radar already, and maybe you'll have a new perfume prescription. I'm Rebecca Lauderdale. I'm a medical doctor who loves fragrance. I'm here to demystify some for you and help you to find new fragrances that maybe you wouldn't have found otherwise. First up is one of my favorite fragrance purchases this year. This is Rawa by Haramain. This is a Middle Eastern perfume house. They have lots and lots of fragrances. You've probably seen other perfume creators on YouTube talk about Haramain fragrances. I have only seen one mention this fragrance. It's not a dupe like many of the others by this fragrance house. I've been disappointed a good deal by many of the dupes that I've tried from the Middle Eastern houses, but this fragrance is beautiful. It is not necessarily just a winter fragrance. I think you could wear it anytime, but I think that it is wintry and Christmassy to me because of the coffee and the chocolate and the tonka bean and the vanilla and what I think it smells like sweet fruits. They're not on the notes from the perfumer, but I think there's some sweet red fruit in there too. So from Haramain, their top notes are almond and coffee, and then jasmine, tuberose, and orris, which is iris root, in the middle. And then the base notes are cacao pod, and that's, that chocolatey smell is not a sweet gourmand chocolate. It's a dry, dark chocolate, and vanilla, tonka bean, and sandalwood. And that tonka also has some qualities of the chocolate and the coffee, that kind of roasted, fermented bean smell. This one is, despite the description of those ingredients, is light. Like, it's got this lift to it. It's very linear. What you spray is what you get. It stays on my skin for hours, but it's not a beast. It's safe to spray a couple times and then for me to wear it to work. It's not gonna be detectable by people who are outside of your arm's reach, and certainly not an offensive fragrance at all. So this one, you can get at FragranceNet for about $20. You can also order it from lots of other outlets online, but my favorite one right now is FragranceNet. They usually have the best prices. Give this one a try if you haven't. It's a safe blind buy because the cost is low. Next up is Levitating by Floricu. I've already talked at length about this one in a couple of my other videos, so I won't go into much detail. This one is an orange spiced black tea scent that you could wear any time of year, but that orange black tea to me is a holiday scent, and this one is just so lovely. So Levitating by Floricu. The next fragrance on my list is one I didn't know about until a couple of months ago. I was watching an old video by a creator that was probably, 4 or 5 years old, and this is not a new fragrance. It's by Hermes. It's Hermescence Amber Narguilé. And when I smelled it first, I've got a decant, I thought, oh, this smells like angel share. And I've got angel share. I've got a travel spray. You can see I've used, a fair amount of it. But something that nags me about angel share is this base note that has a mothball quality to it. I just don't like it. I'll use the rest of this probably, or I'll give it to one of my daughters, but I won't repurchase it for that reason. But this one, this Hermes fragrance, doesn't have that. And there are some small differences, but they are quite similar. The quote from the perfumer, Jean-Claude Elena, who created this fragrance, is that he wanted to imbue the idea of amber with the memory of the East I love by recreating the ambiance of those lively places where tobacco, blended with the smells of fruit, honey, and spices, is smoked in nargilés, which are water pipes, like hookahs, where swirls of smoke diffuse a sweet sense of intoxication. There's definitely some fruit in here, and I think that may be apples. That's another thing that makes it similar to the angel share, but there is a little bit of smokiness. It has a moderate projection, moderate staying power performance, and it's just beautiful. And it has that almost gourmand, spicy, sweet, apples and cinnamon sort of fragrance that makes you think of the holidays. And if it's something you haven't heard of, get a decant of it from somewhere like Scent Split that has just about anything you can imagine and see what you think of it. Next up is a perfume from one of my favorite perfume houses, Ormand Jane. And I talked about this particular fragrance in my fragrance personality video. This is Ormand Woman. It smells like walking in a fir forest, like the fir tree. But there's also a spicy, warm, ambery quality to it. It's really unusual. It's both familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. And I think that's because black hemlock absolute, which is the signature ingredient here, is an unusual ingredient. It's not used a lot in fragrance and certainly wasn't before they created this fragrance. It's a fir tree. It's a type of fir tree. That's what a hemlock is. You may have heard of hemlock. It's a poison. It's what they killed Socrates with. But it has this beautiful, mysterious, woody scent. And in the rest of the fragrance, there is jasmine and violet. I would not have guessed jasmine and violet. This is just a really mysteriously beautiful, woody, piney fragrance that to me just shouts holidays and winter. This is wrapped in a warm coat walking through a forest sort of fragrance. But it's an indoor fragrance too. This isn't one of those that you just couldn't wear inside. I have a couple that are like outside only fragrances. This one is beautiful. My daughter came up and hugged me the other day when I was wearing it and she said, "Oh, you smell so good." This projection is moderate, and I've mentioned before that I'm a physician, and so I want to be careful with my fragrances. I do not wear fragrance to work unless it sticks to just my skin and barely beyond that. So this is something that I could get away with maybe one spray of at work, but I don't typically do that. This is when I'm wearing at home or at other times, but it's still not a beast. I'm not a big fan of beast fragrances. I don't want to force my fragrance upon the people around me unless I know that they really like it. Like if I'm at home and my husband loves the fragrance that I'm wearing, that's a different thing. But anyway, Ormand Woman, beautiful, beautiful fragrance. It is unisex despite the name, so try this one if you haven't. My next one is from the same fragrance house. This is Amber Royal. This one has roses and jasmine, some orange blossom and bergamot, but the big feature here is patchouli. And those of you who know Chanel fragrances know that there is a very distinctive patchouli in Chanel fragrances, especially those classic ones like Number 5, Coco, Coco Mademoiselle, and Coco Noir. This is what I wanted Coco Noir to smell like. It's more modern. It doesn't smell so vintage, even though Coco Noir is not super vintage, but it smells like the 90s to me, like Kirkland stores in the 90s. But this is just it's a more modern version. It's beautiful. I think it could be unisex. It does lean, as far as traditions, more feminine, I think. But just like the Ormand Jane house, they stopped labeling their fragrances as being gendered many years ago. And I would agree. I think anybody could wear this, or any fragrance for that matter. But in particular, that's a good, very good unisex fragrance that reminds me, again, a lot of Chanel. So the next one, I haven't heard any creators talk about. It is Carner's Black Calamus. Calamus in fragrances comes from the root of the calamus plant. It was used in ancient times, including by the ancient Egyptians, in incense mixtures. It's got a strong, herbal, warm, spicy cinnamon kind of fragrance. And It is so unusual. This is sort of like the Ormand Woman. It's like that special ingredient is just, it's so different. It's familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. The Calamus is at the top and all the way through. Then you have Malabar pepper, which there's definitely a peppery quality to this. Coriander seed, Egyptian papyrus extract, so kind of a throwback to that Egyptian heritage. Labdanum, osmanthus, and Turkish rose in the middle. The rose definitely plays a supporting role here. When I smell this, I don't think, oh, rose. Then there's, in the base, Mexican vanilla, oud, frankincense, and juniper. The frankincense and the oud are strong here. So if you aren't familiar with oud fragrances that have a little bit of a dirty quality to them, then you want to make sure you smell this first. It's not a safe blind buy, but if you like oud, this is going to be different than any one that you have. This has got a warm, spicy quality to it, in that, that calamus root is just so unique. This fragrance is beautiful. It is kind of a beast. It does project. People in the room will know you're wearing a fragrance. It lasts, especially on clothing, a long time. It's really unusual, and it's definitely a warm winter holiday scent. I think I'll probably wear this one like Christmas Eve would be a perfect time for this one. My next item isn't technically a perfume, but it is. This is Olum Bath Oil. It also comes in a dry oil body spray. I got a small sample of this in the Liberty Advent calendar a couple years ago and loved it so much. I use it in the shower, not just the bath, but you could either way. I think, this is safe. It's got carrier oils. It's safe just to put on you. But it drips out, so that you would have to put it in your hands and then apply it. I use this in the bath. You and your robe and your towels will smell so wonderful for hours afterward. You don't need to put on any other fragrance after this. There is an essential oil fragrance mixture that they don't tell you the contents of, but then there are also a number of aromatic oils in the mixture in the ingredients list. So I'm going to tell you those because it gives you a good idea of what this fragrance is like. So Siberian fir needle oil, lavandin and lavender, eucalyptus, lemon, Mei Shang, which is a fruit with a lemony fragrance, rosemary, then there's lime, juniper, and geranium flower. So this is a perfect spa fragrance, but it's the fir needle oil, it's the rosemary, and the lemon and the lime. Just this feels like holidays to me. And also because I got this in an advent calendar and used it at the holiday time. This one you could use really all year, but I keep this kind of special for the holidays so it doesn't lose its specialness. I'll use this and then I'll be done with it and probably buy another next year when the holidays run around. So this is Olum Bath Oil, and I believe this is the only fragrance that their bath oil comes in. Then my next one is by a perfume house I have not tried much from, but I intend to do more. This is Serge Lutens Sheru. This has tobacco leaf, honey, amber, hay, incense, sandalwood, iris, musk, and rose. So Sheru is an island in Tunisia on the Mediterranean. This is just a beautiful amber. If you like warm amber fragrances, this is a beautiful one. This probably leans more to the traditionally masculine, but it's great. It lasts. It doesn't have too big of a projection, but someone hugging you will know you have this. They'll smell it, and, up close to you, but it won't project too far. It stays on the skin for a long time. That's what I'm wearing today, several hours. It's a great bedtime scent. It's just cozy and warm. All right, next up, this is Starlight by Serge. You may have seen other creators mention this one, but I want to make some comparisons here that you might not have heard. So this is a cardamom fragrance. I love cardamom, and to me, cardamom is very much a warm, Christmassy spice. So I love this one in the winter and then holiday time. But other fragrances that are strong cardamom fragrances are Gris Charnel and Lune Feline. I've heard those talked about a lot, and I've had decants of them and tried them, but I found the amount of cardamom there to be so much that it became overpowering, almost to the point that you couldn't even smell the cardamom. Have you ever added too much of an ingredient to a recipe and then found that it was so overpowering that it just destroyed it? I think that's what happens in those fragrances. That's my preference. You may love those, and that's fine. If you love those, you'll probably like this too, but the cardamom is just right here. And to me, this is a gorgeous layering fragrance. One of my favorite things to layer it with is Ani by Nishane. So I've got Ani, and it alone is also a beautiful wintertime fragrance. It smells like a gourmet ginger cake. And the cardamom from the Starlight, along with the ginger cake from the Ani, just go together so well. This could also layer really well with other Serge fragrances that are gourmand. Dama Bianca, in particular, that kumquat cake. A similar idea there, adding the cardamom in. Cardamom also is really great with coffee, so putting it with a coffee fragrance would also be really nice. Now I've got the one and only Jo Malone fragrance that I own a full bottle of, because I've found that their fragrances just don't last. I've gotten smaller samples and decants of others, and I've heard other creators and people on internet forums talk about how the Jo Malone fragrances smell wonderful, but they disappear in an hour or two, and I have found that to be true as well. But this one lasts longer. This is the Cologne Intense of Jo Malone's myrrh and tonka. This is a beautiful myrrh resin. There's almond, vanilla, and tonka bean, and it is a perfect holiday scent. And yes, it does last. Now, it's not a really long laster, but you'll get at least, 3 or 4 hours out of this one. I wish that they would do better. I probably won't repurchase this one because it's expensive and it should perform better, in my opinion. I like Tom Ford's, what's that new one? Myrrh Mystere, if you like a myrrh fragrance. But this is definitely a holiday scent, and you may want to give this one a try. Then I've got one that I also talked about, this one in my fragrance personality video. This is Atelier Mater's Rose Ardoise, and you may wonder, why would you pick a rose fragrance for the holidays? This is a rose fragrance like you have not smelled before. This is such an unusual combination of ingredients. In the top, there's nutmeg and pink peppercorn. So that nutmeg brings in that kind of warm holiday spice. And then there's rose and sage in the middle. And then the base is vetiver, leather, and ambroxan. Ambroxan is a synthetic molecule that is created from an ingredient that gets extracted from clary sage. It's kind of velvety and woody and ambery. This is one of those synthetic molecules that not everyone can smell. So you may not be able to smell that, but most of this fragrance is other ingredients. I don't think that the ambroxan has to be there for you to be able to enjoy it. It's just so unusual and very warm and comforting. This one is one I can wear to work. It stays close enough. I can wear a couple sprays. Now, if you spray, like I consider 6 sprays to be a usual amount, then that would probably, for most workplaces, be fine if you don't work in healthcare, and would last you for several hours. It also lasts really nicely on clothing. So if you spray your coat with it, you put your coat on and you'll smell it. So that is Rose Ardoise by Atelier Mater. I want to give you a couple tricks on how to save some money when you're purchasing fragrance any time of year, but especially right now. So we've still got 2 weeks left until Christmas, if you celebrate Christmas, few days of Hanukkah, and then all of the winter season mostly is still left. So the first is to use a discounter site and check the prices first before you buy. So Fragrance Buy in Canada and fragrancenet.com in the United States are the same company, and they frequently have 50, 60, 70% reduction in prices on designer fragrances and many niche brands as well. AIA Mater, that Rose Ardoise, if you purchased it from the company or from a department store, it would be around $230 US. It was $140 on FragranceNet today. And you can get many others there too. So that's one way to save money, and that's always. Then, if you use the website Rakuten, Rakuten, to make your purchases online, many online retailers will give you cash back through them just for shopping there. What that means is that you have an account on Rakuten, and then when you're shopping online, you'll get a little pop-up when you open the site that says, "Would you like to save with Rakuten?" And you just click yes. And then that's all you have to do. They keep up with it for you. You get a payment every so often equivalent to the cash back amounts for the purchases you've made during that period. If you have an American Express card that has membership points, you can choose to get membership points instead of cash back. And if you're savvy with your membership points, sometimes you can get those to be worth more than cash. So just a little tip there. I do have a referral link for Rakuten. If you want to use it, I think you get a little promotional cash for your first purchase, and it'll help support the channel. But I would recommend this even if I didn't, and I certainly don't have any affiliation with FragranceNet. There's also another online discounter called Joma Shop, JOMASHOP, and they have lots of discounted fragrances. Usually Fragrance Buy and FragranceNet have the better prices, but I have occasionally found that Joma Shop has them. And then there are Lucky Scent and Scent Split and Max Aroma and lots of other companies that will sell decants so that you can try things first. Then there's a company called Olfactive that has a monthly subscription. You get a set of niche fragrance samples for men, for women, or all together, and it's about $35 to get the whole set every month, and I've found some of my favorites that way. The other benefit is that they have some really great sales on whole bottles and larger sample sizes that are hard to find other places, like Amouage fragrances. They had a 30% off sale back in October, and it's hard to find those discounted. You'll be able to participate in those sales if you're a subscriber. So just a few tips for you to save some money and maybe buy more fragrances with it. I hope that you have a peaceful and happy and fulfilling holiday season. Let me know what your favorite holiday scents are. And if this is your first time to my channel, take a look at one of these videos you may enjoy. And until next time, much love.